Welcome to the Political Ferret Show. New content will be uploaded every Wednesday and Sunday. This video was financed by my Patreons. Thank you for making the change possible. It looks like we have to talk about migration again, and this time about how much migration is a good thing. Way back when my channel was very young, I talked about that and the optimum number, because there is of course the stereotyping. The right stereotypes the left as those who want unlimited migration and want to take everybody in, while the left of course stereotypes the right as wanting no migration at all. I talk to left-wingers and right-wingers, and I have to say, well, I don't know such people. Everybody will agree that migration to a degree is a good thing, but how much migration? If you say, okay, what's your number? What's your ideal number of migration? Neither the left nor the right can argue a number. So what I will do today is to point out what my personal number, my personal ideal is, and what's the reason behind that. You see, there is of course this notion that we are all a family and we are all the same people. This is not right. And to even point that out to the most left-winger, let's imagine that on the one side there are all the evil right-winger Trump voter and things, and on the other hand there are all the left-wingers who want a communist regime, whatever. You will agree to a certain point that there are pretty much two solutions to that. When you have left-wingers and right-wingers, or believers and non-believers, vegans and meat-eaters, you have two possibilities. One, you kill the others or at least oppress them, and the other is you leave them alone, and this is pretty much what we do. We call this pretty much nationalism. There are one group that follows a certain way of life, and there is another group that follows another certain way of life. The problem is, especially from the past, that you are born into one of these nations and perhaps you are not really into what they do. So migration comes up, of course. But before we can really talk about migration, we have to talk about something else. When one of these nations starts to grow because they outbreed the people that die, they become more. And historically, this is not a bad thing. People are there was never a point where one nation came to another nation and said, hey, you have too many people, now we have to do something against that. This never happened. So growing is absolutely allowed. Nobody has a problem with growing. The problem is when it goes in the other direction, it seems. Because when people start to die off and there are less people in the next year than it was before, it starts to become a really big problem, and people say, okay, now we have to take in a lot of people because in another way we would all die out. And this is blatantly wrong, and I'll show you later why it is. But the thing is, when it is okay for a nation to grow, then it is also okay for a nation to shrink. Nobody has to care about that in the end. On the other hand, you can have a situation where one group outgrows its resources that are available. So they are now overpopulated. They have more people in their own area than it would be healthy. So is this a problem now if the orangists here do that? Is this a problem for the bluists? Have the bluists to do something against that? No. It is a problem of the orangists. It is a result of how they live and how they want to live. It has nothing to do with the bluists whatsoever. And this is important. So in reality, we have of course migrants. We have some people who are redists and moved over to the bluist state and the other way around. Why do they do that? Well, because they think it's better over there. And if they live the way, they become indistinguishable from the people who already lived there for generations. This is integration. On the other hand, they can move over there and still do what they did before in Orange Land, but then they are not a migrant, then they are a conqueror. So I did a whole video about that. This is a distinction. Not everybody who leaves his nation and goes to another nation is a migrant per se. Some of them go over to conquer a land. So if we now talk about migration and remigration and so on, we will just concentrate on Orange Land because concentrate on orange land today. So what happens is from time to time people will leave orange land for different reasons. Some of them will be people who are for generations there, some people will be people who are not so long there and just think that somewhere else it would be better. So how is this mindset? Well, it is pretty simple. You are at some place and then you think about, is it okay? If it is okay, yeah, well, you will stay. It's easy enough. If it is not okay, you will leave, but then you are at another place. And then you can ask yourself, is it better over here? And then you can say yes. And again, it's easy. Then you stay. Or it is not. Well, then you have two possibilities. You can go back or you can go to the next place. A lot of people go back. Is this something with this, I don't know, the devil you know thingy? A lot of people will come back, even though they thought that it is somewhere else way better. So we have now the situation that in our hypothetical land, a lot of people vanish because, well, they die, and some people go away, but some people will come back. So is this a problem? Because you have now less people than when we started the whole thing. So do we need migration right here? Well, it has to be seen, isn't it? Because it is a little bit more complicated. You see, if we have a scale, on the one side we have no people, then we have some people, and in the end we have a bunch of people, and on the other axis we have something of efficiency. This might be something in the way of the average earnings per person. It is economy efficiency. How rich are the average people? So the thing is, when there are no people, nobody is rich, so we start pretty much at zero, and then it goes up and up and up and up, and then it does not go up, and then it goes down because there are too many people around there. So there is an optimum. Where is this optimum? Well, this depends pretty much on your economy and your culture and your geography. In other words, it is pretty much different for every nation, and the interesting thing is these things shift. So it might be that the curve looks some years later something like that. So you want to go over there, and we do that when we see, okay, there are no job opportunities for my children. Should I get 20 children or just 2? Well, I go with the 2 because how I think the future will look like. So these characteristics change, and this optimum changes also. So how many migrants do you need in peacetime? Because we have to talk about wartime another way. It's pretty much how many citizens leave your nations minus those who return. In the case of Austria, this is something in the way of 20,000 people leave per year, but 15,000 come back. This is 5,000. So we have a deficit of 5,000 who just stay in another nation because they like it better over there. And we would need to compensate only that 5,000 people. But we take in way more than 60,000. So this is my problem with the migration thingy. I have no problem with migration, no problem at all. But I think it is a problem that we take 10 times more people in. That would be logically arguably. So the next thing we have to talk about, who is coming. When you said you have a need for farmers, for workers, for dentists, for mechanics, and for engineers. We have a high need for engineers. And then you say, okay, we need so and so many people to come in. And then 20,000 farmers, 40,000 workers, some dentists, some mechanics, and a very few engineers come in. You have a problem. You have a lot of people who come in who would work jobs that do not exist. And on the other hand, those people you need for your economy do not come because they have better things to do, or they just do not exist in the lands where migrants come from. This is a problem. So when you hear this over and over and over in the newspaper, we need so many engineers, yeah, and then people come with no education at all. So this is nonsensical, but it is something that the left willfully ignores most of the time. The important thing is you have needs as a nation, as a group, as whatever. You can't say when you have, I don't know, you are a dentist and you want to take in 2 more dentists and say, I need 2 dentists, I just hire 10 farmer. It doesn't work like that. You have needs as a nation, as an economy, and so on, and it makes no sense to take people in who do not fulfill these needs. So after a war or a catastrophe, it is completely different. It is absolutely different. Back in the time when the Turks killed pretty much the whole east of Austria, there was nobody there anymore. So we went over to Croatia and said, hey guys, won't you come over and live in this wonderful part of Austria? And these people said, yeah, well, cool thing, and they went over. So after war, a catastrophe, things change. So you have to it takes years or it takes generations until you have a new equilibrium where you know how many people you need. But we are not in such a situation. We have not a lot of empty land and have no idea how many people we need. We are quite stable in this regard. So the interesting thing is, of course, that we do not know how and where this optimum lies. It might lie somewhere there, it might lie somewhere there. We do not know. But the market gives a good indication what we need. But the interesting thing is that although we do not know where it is, we know that the tendency, at least in the West, is to less people. We need less people for more work. So there is a tendency from a lot of people to not so a lot of people, but a lot of robots. And when I say robots, I mean things like this cashier robot, automatic thingy wingy. This is the future. For better or worse, well, this is something that the futurists talk about. I think it is a good thing, but we will need less people to work, which means that we need less people around here. And this is again one of the interesting things. How many people do you need? You have a right to say, I need these and these people, and I do not need these and these people. When you're a dentist, you want to hire a dentist or somebody who is whoever. What is the word for the one that helps the dentist? I don't know. But you do not need a farmer, and it is not useful that people come over to you and say you have to hire farmers because there are a lot of unemployed farmers around. This is not how you do it. So I hope I gave you some insights in my reasoning. Thanks for watching, like, share and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.